On today's Monday News Pod, the San Diego Padres win their first full series of the year against those dastardly Los Angeles Dodgers, 2-1, thanks to some heroics by all the stars from Manny to Tatis, and Jackson Merrill Rookie of the Year, potentially. We'll talk about all of that and answer your questions and much more. And by the way, Will Smith, bite me.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Monday, April 15th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, or at @LO_Padres. Find the podcast on YouTube as well. You might know some of my work if you don't like my tweets. Go check it out at justbaseball.com, where I write about not just the Padres, but general baseball. I also host a little podcast called Baseball versus the World. On today's episode, guys, we're breaking it down. It's weekend recap, man. And it's a happy weekend recap. And of course, we will be answering some of your many questions and comments at the end of the show. But we got a lot to talk about. So we're kind of going to just get right on into it. But before we do that, just want to quickly mention eBay Motors is sponsoring today's show. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Man, what a weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited to talk today. This is fantastic. The Padres, of course, for those who didn't know, first, what I meant by full series in the intro is just like more than 2 games. That's what I meant. One that you could actually win in a lot of ways because it's, we split the last one. That was the Soul series. Really fun series, though, for what it's worth. I really did enjoy that series. But 3-game series, and the Padres had just come off of, a decent showing, I guess some would say, against the Chicago Cubs, in which their offense erupted. They, of course, had that huge 8-run comeback, which was really huge. And then they have a disappointing second game, which everyone, I think, felt as well. An 8-run comeback, and then you just get completely killed the next game. And then they blew him out of the water in the last game on Wednesday. And what's fun about this series is that they followed it up with another comeback. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, let's talk about Sunday night's game, which had a lot take place, ladies and gentlemen. In this one, the Padres win by a score of 6-3, with Yu Darvish, again, not having a great start. But it was a very bend not break start for Yu Darvish in this one. 5 innings, 3 earned runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 Ks. The good news is that while the strikeouts obviously weren't there, and there were some at bats where he lost guys, one thing that I think is worth noting, he used a lot of pitches in this game. He used a curveball, knuckle curve, cutter, sinker, sweeper, splitter, slider, and 4-seam fastball. Basically all of them in not equal amount, but like they're not. It's not like that he threw one curveball, and I'm mentioning it. Like really odd start, dare I say, for Darvish. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways, and he's always been a guy who tinkers. I understand that, but really weird stuff. He didn't generate a lot of swings and misses, which was concerning. But he only basically has one major hit that he gives up, and that's to Max Muncy, the one guy you don't want to give up a big hit to. He hits a home run in the bottom of the 4th inning, but after that, it's all Padres bullpen in this one, right? Enyel De Los Santos, he gets 2 outs. Yuki Matsui, again, doing well. The regression, I think, could come at some point for Matsui, just to watch out for that. I don't like that he hasn't been striking out as many people, hasn't been generating as many swings and misses, and the walk rate, I think the last time I talked about him was a little bit higher than his strikeout rate, so that's a little bit concerning. I think at some point he'll get hit a little bit, but we'll see. I think he just needs to work on his fastball, and most importantly, what I like about Matsui, who I'm already talking about more than I expected, but I like that the splitter, no one's hitting. So while, yes, he does need to work on the fastball, hitters are teeing off on that, his main go-to and the thing that we were excited about was his split fastball, right? We were hoping that's going to be the pitch that no one can hit. And so far, no one's hitting that. If hitters were managing to make good contact on that pitch and do better with it, then I would be more concerned. But if not, it's like, all right, yeah, he'll work on the fastball more, locate it better, maybe add some movement, but his dynamite ace pitch is working so far, so I really like that from Matsui. Wandy Peralta good in this one as well, who I will be talking about a little bit later, and Robert Suarez, 1 inning, just allows a walk and a bunch of grounders. Really good stuff. Padres bullpen has just had a couple of big explosions. Tom Cosgrove in one of these games does not have a good showing, but still, nonetheless, he is. We're thrilled with our bullpen right now. I got a little bit distracted because someone named Dex just messaged me on Twitter about the show. So, Dex, I might answer your question if you said a question here. So, we'll look at that in a second. But this game is all about a couple people. First of all, man, look, I usually save the rest of the games for the next recap. We do the recent one first, and then we get through the rest. But in Saturday night's game, the one loss that the Padres had, there was a little bit of a skirmish, of course, which we'll get into a little bit later more. But Will Smith famously had the quote, to Jurickson Profar saying, like, why would we throw at you? You're irrelevant. Jurickson Profar in this game blows the game open in the top of the 7th inning with a bases clearing double that ends up being the winner for the Padres as they win 6-3. It's also worth noting, though, Jackson Merrill does get a single in this game, allowing Jurickson Profar to score, and that was a big one. And it was it was a right up the middle hit. I don't think he smoked that one. I don't think he hit it particularly hard. He just kind of placed it. It ended up being in the right spot. But even still, Jackson Merrill has been awesome here. Oh no, actually, never mind. He did hit it pretty hard. 102.7 off the bat, 940 expected batting average. I was wrong. Okay. All right, cool. But Jackson Merrill also was very good overall in this series, and I think that that's worth talking about a lot because Jackson Merrill has been better than a lot of the rookies so far that have been highly touted and expected, greater things expected, from Jackson Holliday to Yoshinobu Yamamoto to Wyatt Langford. Jackson Merrill has been the one so far to produce the most in this series. 6 for 12 with 2 RBIs, a run scored, and a walk. And his first time at Dodger Stadium, which I think is a big deal. So shouts to Jackson Merrill. Kid looks like a gamer out there. And one of the things I've talked about with him is that I love that he does have some problems with pitch recognition. He swings at some bad pitches, but he is a rookie. And most importantly, he makes contact. Like, the contact is there. The bat to ball skills that were talked about with him is totally there. So shouts to Merrill, just awesome stuff from him. But this is all about Profar. Will Smith, just kind of, honestly, I kind of love that he said that to him. One, because it just gave Profar fuel. But two, it's very, I just think it's such a great microcosm of the Dodgers fan base and just that whole team and its culture, which is a team that acts like they are so much bigger than what they actually are. They are the best team in baseball. They are the kind of model for building great baseball teams. Let's just be honest, guys, they are. But they act like they run the town. And my thing is no, literally the team with more full season World Series championships than you. The Rangers just won last year. Are the Rangers fans acting like they run the town? Maybe right now they are because, they won last year. Then they should. They're the defending champions. But other than that, it's I don't see this from any other fan base. You know what I mean? The Astros a little bit, but the Astros make the ALCS every year, and they rarely have an embarrassing playoff loss. You know what I mean? So that's the difference. So I really think that Will Smith, great microcosm for how the Dodger fan base acts, acting like they run everything. I actually got a reply to a tweet making fun of Will Smith, comparing, Will Smith and Jurickson Profar's stats and saying one is going to be a Hall of Famer. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how unnecessary of a comment that is at an opposing player. And honestly, I love it. So is the rivalry back on? Maybe. In this game, some criticisms, though. Really bad situational hitting for the Padres. Basically, other than the Profar hit, there's 2 double plays from Jay Cronenworth. There's one from Luis Campusano in this one. I remember bases loaded. I forgot when the bases were loaded, actually. I'm going to look it up if I can. Let me see. When was it? Was it I forgot which inning it was, but there was an inning when it was bases loaded, nobody out, and then you get 3 straight ground balls and only 7 pitches for the 3 outs, right? That's bad. So that's just one example, right? And they ended up getting 1 run to score because the double play, they had nobody out, right? But even still, 3 straight ground balls and only 7 pitches, just not making the pitcher work. And the fact that you basically had gotten those runners on through some walks is really disappointing, right? So it wasn't great. Jay Cronenworth 2 double plays in this game. I'm not mad at him at all because let's just be real. He's been so good so far this year that you just can't, hate. You know what I mean? So, and also he's not a player known for hitting the double play, so it's just more unfortunate and frustrating. But man, Cronenworth, just can't be mad at him. I don't care. If he dropped the game-winning hit, I could barely even, you know what I mean? If he dropped a fly ball like Luis Castillo with the Mets and Yankees series years ago, I wouldn't have been too frustrated because I would have been yeah, this stinks, but man, you've been good for us this year, man. You're kind of the best player of the Padres at the moment. So really good stuff from the Padres. Way to close it out on national TV. And yeah, got a lot of messages, by the way, about the broadcast. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but still finishing up the recap of the series, folks. Before we continue talking about that, though, I just want to talk to you all really quickly about a new sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. A new sponsor. But first, an old sponsor, and it is our good friends over at eBay Motors. Folks, we love eBay Motors. They're fantastic. And here's the thing. Passion, drive, and patience. Those are the things you need to win championships. And, well, you kind of need the same thing for your vehicle. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain it and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, carpet, probably some cool mirror stuff. Whatever you're thinking of, they got it over at eBay Motors. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. So just go check that out, guys. Keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And folks, now for the new one, ladies and gentlemen. You might have heard the news, if you're in the movie world, that Margot Robbie's producing and starring in a Monopoly movie. Well, check this out, folks. I got to talk to you about Monopoly, and specifically Monopoly Go. I've been told, folks, that I can be competitive. You think that's true? Well, I have a competitive side. What can I say? Every now and then I get competitive. You hear how I talk about the Dodgers, and let me tell you, Monopoly Go, you might have heard of it. It's been all the rave. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly, where you play on not one but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations. I'm excited to check it out, with building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is, you got to mess with your friends, man. You want to charge them, all the different properties, from the railroads, overcharge them for stuff. They got all of that stuff. And they showed you a giant leaderboard to show you who's the best Monopoly tycoon. So, guys, get in the game and join your friends, folks. Join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Go check it out. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing. Saturday, they did not thrive and vibe. I will say, though, about the Padres. It wasn't the best game for them. There was the outbreak, right, where it seems like Profar just had some words with Will Smith. It's actually funny that Profar has been the instigator / inciter, whatever you want to call it, the gasoline to the oil, whatever you want to call it, for like 2 benches clearing incidents between the Padres and Dodgers. In fact, that they've had 3 in the past couple years, and one of them was Jorge Mateo, actually. And it's never like escalated too much, but if you guys remember, I think it was 2 years ago, Profar's best season that he had, in which he was talking to Clayton Kershaw about something. I don't know what it was. I think it was some like pitch that he pretended hit him, Profar. I think that's what it was. And it was really weird because Clayton Kershaw's not like this personality known for that. And they were arguing, and I think the benches got a little bit heated. And then you have yesterday, in which, or I'm sorry, by the time you guys are listening, it's 2 days ago, in which he, took a pitch inside, and I guess he took offense to it and whatnot. I choose to think that I think Jurickson Profar just loves the Padres, and therefore, because he becomes God, apparently, whenever he's with the Padres. So therefore, the hatred of the Dodgers is also so part of him because of that love for the Padres, apparently, that I think he just gets upset at them and he hates them. And honestly, I love him for it. I didn't see anything intentional about this, not because of the garbage that Will Smith is spewing. Stop acting like you run the league, please. That's all we're asking. At least Shohei is like, just out here vibing, doing his thing. You know what I mean? So shouts to him, but bench is clear for a little bit. Manny's walking out with his what are they called? Sunflower seed bag. Manny's so funny sometimes in his own very interesting way. Just the way he's walking around, the way he carries himself is really funny. He's just walking out. He's got the sunflower seeds. I thought that was very funny. But all in all, nothing really happens. It was just a benches clearing. And hey, last time these two teams had some juice, some good things happen, I think, whether it be for the Padres and whatever it just be for the sport. I think it's really fun. But in this game, back to it, the thing we're talking about is Matt Waldron in this game. Straight up, that's the biggest thing. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 3 hits. He does have 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. It's not that he was dynamite or anything in this game. What I really like, though, is, and I actually compared him last week, that I said he could Zach Davies his way into a good season. And I think that was a really lazy comparison on my part. And basically what I did was, pitcher you weren't expecting much from, back end of the rotation, ends up being good for a year. That's what I did. But he's really not like him at all, frankly. And he's not the reason they lose. Tom Cosgrove rocking a 12. What is his ERA right now? It's 12.86. He gives up 3 earned runs in just a third of an inning. I still think Cosgrove can be good, but he's just had some really big blowups. But he's still able to get some swings and misses and strikeouts. So I think he'll be better. I don't think he's Luis Garcia, I think is the way to put it, because he just has had 2 really weird outings, and frankly, he's had 3. I don't know what's going on with Cosgrove, but hey, that xFIP from last year is one of the things I warned about preseason. It was 4.91, which I understand that his expected stats were not that bad, but that just shows you that some things might regress for him. So don't expect him to be dynamite like last year, but I don't think it'll be this bad. But anyway, back to the game. Matt Waldron, I think what I like about him is just how do I put this? He's just kind of unpredictable. And that's kind of the style of him because he throws the knuckleball a lot. But he got a decent amount of whiffs on it. He got 4 on 15 swings. He didn't get it on much else, but he was just limiting hard contact. And I like that he throws it all over the place. You know what I mean? I kind of like that. That's what I really, really like about his knuckleball. And I like that his sweeper has a lot of horizontal break on it. 16 inches, in fact. Like, he's been okay on it. Like, he's okay. I like Waldron. He's impressed me. I was wrong about him. I was actually a little bit more Team Brito to start the year, which has not aged well, or what can I say? But and Pedro Vila, actually, by the way, I forgot to mention, did get optioned down to AAA. So my guy Pedro, apologies, but hey, he'd been struggling. So we'll see how this all transpires. But Matt Waldron, not bad. There's not too much to talk about in this game. The only Padres runs coming from a Tyler Wade single, hilariously, and then a Fernando Tatis Jr. double that allows Kyle Higashioka to score. So not too much to talk about for this game. The Padres get beat by Gavin Stone, who just kills them in this game. 6 2/3, 2 earned runs on only 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks. One thing I will say, like I said with situational hitting, another thing that happened this weekend, just not making him work. Just that was really bad. They just did not make him work. Gavin Stone, I mean, just come on. There was like a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings, especially at the beginning of this game, and they were swinging way too early, not making him work, especially after some long innings maybe by Waldron, who's really working through it. So that was bad situational hitting by the Padres. But I will say, also in this game, or I think it was in the Friday game. My apologies. So I'm just kind of let's just go on to Friday. Why don't we? That's what the last game you guys want me to actually talk about, right? Friday's game, the Padres win by a score of 8-7. What I was going to mention is Jay Cronenworth. While he does have the 2 double plays and whatnot, and I do forgive him for that because again he's been so good for the team this year. And I tweeted this. His effort. He makes a diving, leaping catch in the Sunday night game, by the way, in which the announcers had like really mild reactions to, in my opinion, but. He does that a lot, and I even brought up that Shohei Ohtani ripped a double, but you still saw Cronenworth go flying for the ball. He's playing like a man possessed this season, and he needs more credit. Like, I've been giving him a lot of credit on this show. I really think that he's the only A-plus player for the Padres so far this season, but I think he deserves even more. He has looked amazing. He's even gotten unlucky on some plays. I'm just astonished by how well he's been playing. I really am. I just think that he's been fantastic, and I think he deserves a lot of credit, and he is able to do something in Friday's game. He does get a solo shot, but let me just recap the scoring in this one. First of all, Machado homers in the top of the first inning, I believe on the first pitch that he sees, or the second pitch, and then he evil glares at the Dodgers dugout, which was awesome. And why did he do that? For those who don't know, apparently Dave Roberts, before the game, had reached out to the umpires being like, hey, watch Manny if he's in the eyesight of the pitchers, basically. Like, and that's like a weird thing to complain about. I don't know. Like, I honestly can't speak towards it because obviously I have a bias and I'm going to be like, all right, Dave Roberts, like, relax. Like, I know you guys literally lose to every team that has a pulse, but like, really, you're going to be doing this? But again, I don't know like what tone it was. I don't know if he was like, hey, man, like really, or if he just walked up and said, hey, watch for Manny a little bit. Like, I don't know how that works necessarily, but it didn't matter. He hits a 2-run shot. I'm hoping this gets Manny activated a bit. He has a couple big home runs. He also has one on Sunday to start off the scoring in that one he did, and then a 2-run shot here. Good weekend for him. Can he start to use this to propel himself? Sure. He also draws a walk in this game, which I appreciated. So, and an intentional walk in the extra inning. So that was really good. I hope that Manny's going to start like this is the beginning, right? And it's still early in the season. The one that I'm the most worried about is Bogaerts. Like, in terms of just, will he get better? I don't know if it's a guarantee he's going to be, hitting super well. But Machado, really good signs from him. But again, just to recap the scoring, then Shohei Ohtani homers. I was actually talking with a friend of mine. We like to hop on PlayStation while we're watching the game and just get on our headsets and whatnot. And we were talking, and he's like, hey, do you think they're going to keep this lead? And Michael King. I've been talking about this a lot. I actually got a question about him. Michael King, I will say the changeup, 7 whiffs on it. It looked great in his previous start. But I will say all the peripherals on him have been bad. I've talked about how his velocity went down. His velocity was actually okay in this start. It wasn't bad from his previous starts, but in terms of previously, just not the best from him. He's allows a Shohei Ohtani home run. Top of the second, Ha-Seong Kim homers. I'm more confident that his bat's going to bounce back than some others on his team, like your Xander Bogaerts. But then Muncy hits a home run, and then Mookie Betts hits one to put them up by 2. Then Teoscar Hernandez homers. Again, I talked about it. I talked about it in my report card on pitchers, saying I was worried about Michael King because of the peripherals and because of the down in velocity. And this validated those concerns, and I didn't even think it was going to be this bad. Just all home runs. That's a bad sign. So I am very worried about Michael King. Still early, but if I'm going to analyze and do some recaps, he's the one. It's him and Bogaerts. It really is. It's those 2 players I'm the most worried about because they're supposed to be big for this team, and they need them to be better. But then Jake Cronenworth, just like Monday, kind of starts the rally. They're down by a lot. Not as much as Monday, but they started. He hits a solo shot in this one. Then Bogaerts, while he does ground out, allows Jackson Merrill to score. And then Fernando Tatis Jr. hits a tying home run to, tie it, obviously. And then Jackson Merrill ends up hitting the ball to put them ahead. And that was really surprising. I thought they were going to lose because they took the lead, or I said they tied the game. And then the top of their order comes up for the first time in extras with the ghost runner, Zombie. I prefer Zombie Runner, honestly. Because he's not a ghost. You see him. He's right there. So I prefer Zombie Runner. I don't know why I'm getting caught up in the semantics, but that happens, and Merrill puts him ahead. Again, just good stuff. Merrill also makes a diving catch in this game to rob, I believe it was Shohei Ohtani, in a hit. I'm going to see if I can find it. Just incredible. I mean, Jackson Merrill, man. Look, if you got in on it in time, like, congrats, right? But man, you know what I mean? Like, just, oh boy. I really do think that his rookie campaign isn't being talked about enough. If you got in on the action before it started becoming a little bit more mainstream, which I think is going to be the Merrill Madness hashtag I see all over the place. But, oh man, Merrill's been awesome. He's just been awesome, and he deserves credit. And the defense is, in my opinion, the thing that surprised me a little bit more. Not the bat to ball or even the walk rate, but the defense, because this is not like his main position. You know what I mean? So shouts to him. Shouts to the Padres. 2 comeback wins in a week. I talked about this before, but it feels like the only comeback that the Padres had that oomph in it was the David Dahl tying home run against the Diamondbacks, and then the Ha-Seong Kim walk-off at the beginning of last year. Otherwise, not great. But overall, really good stuff from the Padres, and I'm excited. Yes, you've got some things, right? Like, you got some things to complain about. You've got some critiques, but all in all, such a great showing, man. Such a great showing, and I'm thrilled. And enjoy the Dodger fan tears until we play them next. And whoever ends up playing them in the playoffs, even if it's not us, because they might just lose to them too. But everybody, we are not done. We're going to be answering your questions and comments. A really packed episode today, I know, so apologies for taking so long to get to it. But before we get into that, I need to give you some advice, folks. Oh yeah, that's right, some advice. Some advice on the world, dare I say. And look, things can be tough, man. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, let me tell you, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Seriously, though, you need it. It's very, very important. And let me tell you, what I really like about Yahoo Finance is they just have so many different tools for you to use. For more than 25 years, they've been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you just need some extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all those tools. Number one finance destination. They've got analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, similar to what I end up doing on my own baseball research, but this is for finance, and that is very important. So go check that out. Original editorial perspectives as well, breaking news reports and all that. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401, god dang it, 401k. I am a mess. This is why, see, I need Yahoo Finance. I need some advice and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com for the advice needed for your investing and all such things. And just like that, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Locked On Padres podcast in the mailbag section of the podcast. I want to start off by reading a live DM, dare I say, that I got over the course of reading this. This comes from my guy, Dex, who just says, Javi, my man, gotta say this season is so much more fun than all of last year already. Been absolutely loving the pod. Love your stuff. Keep up the good work. Jackson Merrill, National League Rookie of the Year. Thoughts? Kid can play. Yeah, and I don't think it's being talked about enough. Don't get me wrong. I understand why he wasn't as highly viewed as some other guys like Jackson Chourio of the Brewers, who's like, he got called up immediately and they extended him. So there's some vibes of like, oh, he must be good, right? Jackson Holliday's the number one prospect in all of baseball. Wyatt Langford is on a great team in Texas. I get that. And Yamamoto, frankly, like, I totally understand him being a Rookie of the Year contender. Although for some reason the Padres are the only ones to really consistently hit him. But yeah, I do. I think that the secret is out, though. I think you're going to see a lot more people talking about it. I really do. So, Dex, though, thank you so much for the very kind words. Just really, really good stuff. You sent me a very kind message back in 2023 that I appreciated very much. So thank you so much. And wow, my tweet about what's-his-face is blowing up. My God. I did not realize it was going to go that hard. Shouts to you, Will Smith, you chump. But continuing on, of course, with the rest of the mailbag questions. Here's a big one that I want to start off with, and that is the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. This one coming from longtime listener of the pod, Rama Murray. Question: why does ESPN not like the Padres? They drool all over the Dodgers, but can't say anything good at us. Another comment that I saw, this wasn't a mailbag question, but from Craig Elston at 619 Sports, for those familiar with Padres Hot Tub and some other stuff, switch uniforms and the entire broadcast on ESPN would have been about Jackson Merrill. I will say this. And I also put this out there, by the way, on the Locked On Padres Twitter account, which I like to use these days as more of a polling, by the way, if you guys are curious. It's just easier for me to tweet my live game tweets from my own account. It's just easier. What can I say? Because that's the one that I use more. I think that it's tough for me sometimes with these situations because people for years did this with Joe Buck, and I never understood it. Because I just never understood it. I really didn't. And they always complained that he hated your team and et cetera, et cetera. I think in general, the idea that broadcasters hate certain teams is often, a fallible type of opinion, in my opinion. But I have to admit, it was a little weird, this one. It really, really was. Like, I was watching this being like, wait a minute. So are we just not going to... I didn't feel the same energy. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Because the Dodgers are kind of the league's darling. Them... the Yankees, right? Those are the league's darling. Let's just be honest. I didn't feel like it was totally equal. I have to admit, I don't think it was horrendous or anything. Maybe I need to honestly, I might just watch the game again and see if there's any playback and compare the highlights, because Ohtani ripped like a single in this game. And I felt like that got more. And again, I could be totally wrong. This is where my Padres bias really comes out. And frankly, even if Dodgers fans want to comment and say, I really think you're wrong, like, I think that they were pretty objective, and I think that they're just always a little bit, maybe this is a home team thing. The Dodgers were the home team. So maybe that was what was going on, where it's just, they'll have a little bit more emphasis because you have the crowd into it and all that stuff. By the way, shouts to that Dodgers fan who freaking got caught on camera, like, pretending to throw Machado's home run back in. That was hilarious. And honestly, a king. I like that dude. And he sat down, owned up to it, did the interview. I thought it was really funny. I really did. And I don't know. I did. I thought it was really funny. I kind of got love for that dude. He's such a schemer. I've never seen that before. But that could be it. It could be a home field sort of thing, that maybe they just have the energy of the crowd behind them. So maybe that's what it feels like. But please, leave your comments, whatever you think. But I can't necessarily disagree with Craig and with Ron Murdy either, which is like, I really feel like Profar, like he had the hit of the game that blew it open, and I don't feel like there was the same intensity. And by the way, there's a story there because of Will Smith, so what better than to talk about this? But I didn't get that same enthusiasm. So again, it could just be bias Padres-ness, some biased fandom, dare I say, on my part, and maybe other folks on Twitter and whatnot. But I have to admit, it was a little bit weird. And in a league that once reportedly was going to decline the Padres from signing Aaron Judge for some reason, and this is back before Manny, Darvish, Cronenworth, and Bogart's signings, that they were going to veto like their signing of Aaron Judge if he ended up going there. Yeah, I know. The alarm is raised. That's what I'll say. Well, that wasn't the only question we got, guys. We got to move on just a little bit. Kai 8869 says Peralta in question marks. Yeah. So in my pitcher review list on Friday, I forgot to talk about Wandy Peralta. I would have given him a B+. In my opinion, Wandy's weird because I really want more from him because he's had such a weird last 2 years where last year he had such a low ERA, but the expected stats, his FIP was like in the 5s. He was worth negative WAR, which again, I don't like using WAR for pitchers. I just don't. I don't understand how you can literally allow only like have a 2.0 ERA, but then your WAR is negative. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what happened on the field? You were worth X. You weren't negative because you didn't actively hurt them. So that didn't make any sense. I don't like WAR for pitchers, but I think that it's because of that, and then because he was really good the year before without any weird expected stats. I just want more. I just don't know what's up with this guy, but hey, he was good in Sunday's game. But yes, I'd give him a B+ because bottom line is the results are there, and I haven't seen anything giantly concerning or giantly impressive. And considering his weirdness with last year, I just want to give it more time. So that's my thoughts on Mr. Wandy Peralta. Next comment from Dovids 9253. Campy has been fantastic, but I have to agree with you. He has been putting everything into play. He's been stealing strikes, but yeah, we would benefit with a defensive catcher being in at some points. Exactly, and I think that was an underrated acquisition of the Juan Soto trade was Higashioka. Just a nice little, we know this will be useful because you've got a really good defense and you've had some clutch hitting at times for the Yankees and just been there with that team for a while. I think that's good, and in my opinion, he should be pitching, or he should be catching for some pitchers who are a little bit more volatile, some pitchers who maybe need a more defensive-oriented catcher, like a Dylan Cease, which I said on Friday's episode. So we'll see. And then, yes, Campizano is also going cold right now. OPS is below 700. I think he'll get back to it, but I don't like that he's only walked, I think, like twice on the year. That's concerning. That's very, very concerning. And he didn't have the best walk rate last year. So, again, he doesn't have to be Will Smith. He doesn't have to be, what's his name? Adley Rutschman. But being an above average offensive catcher, to me, the bigger issue is going to be the defense. And I'm not fully confident that's going to get any better. So I am worried about Campizano there. The offense will come in waves, though. It will. And at the very minimum, here's the other thing why I'm always starting the Campy Hive. He's better than Austin Nola. He's probably the best catcher, upside and potential out of anyone that I've covered since I took over the show starting in 2020, at least in my opinion. Next comment, though. What about grades for the coaches like Schilt and Niebla? I would give Schilt, I don't know about them yet. Niebla, I give an S tier A++ all the time, no matter what. I'm just going to. He's a king in a lot of ways. Mike Schilt, look, and it's hard to gauge who's the fault here, but and I understand Tyler Wade did get 1 RBI for the team, but I just don't understand why he's starting. I just don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Now it seems to be calming down a little bit finally. I just don't understand why he was getting universal at-bats. And Eggy Rosario has had some nice extra base hits. I like what I've seen from that guy. Give him a little bit more consistency. I don't think he's a 400 WRC plus against lefties and -4 against righties. That's like the greatest platoon split in the history of the game right there. So I would even give him 2 straight starts, 1 against a righty, 1 against a lefty. I just want to give him a chance to get his feet in there. You know what I mean? You didn't do it with Grant Pauly, so let's try it with Eggy Rosario a little bit. Including every now and then, maybe once, let's just try it out a little bit against a righty. That's just my opinion, though. That's my only complaint with them so far. Again, I don't know if that's their decision sometimes, right? At Justin, a.k.a. Sue Light, I think Tyler Wade is getting playing time since they're trying to trade him and upping his trade value. I disagree because I don't think anyone's that interested in him. He's the type of player that you can find someone of his skill set in the free agent market. Frankly, Tommy Pham and Brandon Belt are still out there. I know that they're different positions, but I don't think so. And he has a large sample size of not being a very good player by major league standards, by relatively speaking, of course. You and me, listeners, are not as good as Tyler Wade at baseball, not even in the same universe, right? But I think it's kind of established who Tyler Wade is, but that's just me. At LFGSD Padres says, I think Kim and Xander are feeling weird. I think they both need a few days off. Xander hasn't been hitting his target. Crony has to keep digging out throws. If it wasn't for Crony's skills, a lot of balls would get past first. I wonder if Crony could get a golden glove this year, or is that only for outfielders? No, golden gloves are absolutely for every position. Absolutely Cronenworth could get one. Last year it went to Christian Walker, who's been like of the Diamondbacks. Like that's one thing with the D-backs. Like they've got some good defenders too. Now we'll see though. He's been leaping all over the place. I talked about this in the first segment. He's been awesome. He could absolutely win. I think that Bogaerts has been concerning me too. I will say Kim's errors reminded me a lot of that about the Tatis thing. I urge everyone, and I'm not saying he hasn't been bad. He struggled clearly, and there's been some errors. Hey, but Xander Bogaerts made an error that almost ended their game on Friday, by the way. I think Bogaerts has been worse, but for me, Kim, just quickly on the errors, it just doesn't tell the full story because it doesn't take into account the range, the arm strength, all that stuff. And I think that Kim, it's just a little bit fluky, the errors sometimes. It happens. I think Francisco Lindor of the Mets made like a bunch of errors when he first got to the Mets. And it was like, what? Like, that's the best glove in baseball. It just happens sometimes. But the range is still there. He's still good and outs above average. I'm not too concerned. He's just having a really weird start to the season. And I think his bat's going to get a little bit better too. But last question, folks. It comes from Grant Jordan on Twitter saying, hey, Javi, big fan and frequent listener here. Thank you so much. I have a question for the mailbag. On the pitcher grades episode, you expressed some concern with Michael King's dip and velo. Agreed, I absolutely did. Given the flood of elbow injuries around the league and the fact that this is his first year as a full-time starter, do you think that there may be some intentionality to the decrease? If not, do you at least think that it may serve him well to save his arm over the course of a full season? Thanks so much for the great content, man. Keep it up. Thank you so much for the very, very, very kind words. Thank you. Really good vibes on today's episode. Thanks, guys. It's a great point. This was a similar point brought up, actually, I think last week's mailbag. I apologize for the fellow who sent it in saying, you know, with the velocity thing, like it's a long season and maybe they're prioritizing movement instead of full throw. My thing is, I think King is a swing and miss guy. I think he's a guy that you want to overpower hitters. That's why he's had such a high strikeout rate before this season, 30% since 2022. But like Grant says here, in fairness, full-time starter from Michael King here. I get that. Although he flirted with, I think, a couple starts. Oh, he was with the Yankees, I think. I could be wrong about that. Or he was like one of those really long inning guys. I don't fully remember what he did with the Yankees, but that's a good point, though. I do think that we'll have to see. And my issue is more so that if the velocity goes down and you're still producing results, you're still producing ground balls, you're not producing too much hard hit contact, and the peripherals look okay, and you're not walking too many batters, then it's like, okay, this might be who you are. Good example would be Jordan Hicks on the San Francisco Giants, who's generating so many ground balls right now to make up for a little bit of the strikeout rate, and his stuff isn't getting hit hard. And he's a guy who's going from bullpen to starting pitcher. So I think that's a better example of being like, okay, this is thing. But I do think you raise a great point. All these arm injuries, Spencer Strider's out for the year. Who else? Bobby Miller of the Dodgers just landed on the IL, and he's a high upside type of guy. I have him on one of my fantasy keeper leagues, actually, that I joined. No, that's not Dodger loving, by the way. I inherited the team anyway. I'm still concerned. I think it's because of the walks, because of the hard hits. I do love the changeup, though. I think the changeup has been nasty at some points. But with the fastball, I just don't want to see it dip too much. You know what I mean? But we will see. And I will say, yeah, I have seen all these injuries happen, and I'm nervous too. Baseball's having itself a little bit of a reckoning right now. So, Grant, that's a great point. But in my opinion, he's the type of pitcher that should be overpowering guys. And we have not seen the results yet. Maybe it'll take time. It could totally take time. And in Ruben Niebla, we trust, right? That's our king. But for right now, I am worried about Michael King. I don't think it's just as simple as, oh, well, they're trying to make him last longer. I just think he's been struggling. The good news is, though, changeup looks good. He has some nasty pitches every now and then. Just got to be a little bit more consistent and don't do what was Friday, which was the ultimate. I forgot if Grant sent this question in before the Friday start. So Grant might be like, he might be listening to this episode, my guy being like, oh man, like wrong time for me to say I'm not, maybe this is what they're doing with King because he just gave up like 8 home runs or whatever it was. It was between both teams, a lot of home runs on Friday. So we'll have to see. But I've been blabbing enough on today's podcast, everybody. That about does it for today's show of the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Apologies if I spoke too fast on this one. Just a lot of material to cover, but I had a blast. Really good weekend series. Next up comes the Brewers, which is a team that is kind of in rebuild, semi-rebuild. Nobody really knows. I think they're going to trade at the deadline, but looks like I think they're having a regression. They had hit remarkably well with runners in scoring position to start the year, like way too well, given what their lineup is right now. I believe Christian Yelich got hurt too, so that's one thing. Should be a nice series for the Padres to go out. Got to watch out though, because they've got some really good pitchers still. I know Freddie Peralta is like looking like a Cy Young candidate. So we'll see how that goes. And then they've got a series, I believe, is it against the Cubs again? No. Who the heck are they playing again? I'm blanking right now. Sorry. Brewers, the Blue Jays. Okay, so a bluish team with red. Okay, you see where my head was at. And then they've got a series against the Rockies. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be talking about those games, of course. Might do an episode just breaking down just some of the worst things for the Padres right now. Might break down, in terms of the lineup order. Should Ha-Seong Kim be batting leadoff? It's a real good question. I think the answer is yes, by the way. That might be an episode, but for sure what will be an episode this week, my guy Aram Layton of justbaseball.com, The Call Up, go check that out podcast. He's going to come on the show to talk about what he's seen from Jackson Merrill so far. Just prospect talk about him, talk a little bit about the Grant Pauly situation and some of the other guys, the young guys in the Padres farm system. That is going to be a ton of fun. And also Robbie Snelling, he's been shoving a little bit, so keep an eye on him. Good vibes for the Padres. Ever since I did that rant on Monday, which I kind of regret doing now. Good stuff has been happening, guys. So keep it locked in. Stay safe. Until next time, folks, stay safe and stay faithful. My faithful homies. Take care.